Hello, it's Ren Presents time. I'm your host, Ren, and today we continue with the Shadow Tech Goddess Part 2, The Loves of Paymaster Stenstrom, Chapter 1, the Hrn. So last week, responding to the destruction of the Hoban Knight and the information received on Lord Aram's arcane disc, Paymaster Stenstrom and entourage proceeded at speed to the ruins of Caroline to see if Melazar of Caroline was there. No doubt, she was on the Hoban Knight when it was destroyed. She really can't be killed because she's got her Very Mary on her leg, and it's gonna zap her out of there before any bodily harm can really befall her. Back to the ruins of Caroline, and coincidentally on the little arcane disc Lord Aram's toting around, it said the next place to go to find their MacGuffin of choice, the Anatameter, is the ruins of Caroline, coincidentally, so that's where they were headed. They find Melazar trussed up like another day goose, being roasted alive by a fire. They run afoul of two villainous types, some nasally guy and a kind of stork-like woman in black. The stork-like woman in black kicks both their asses. Gwendolyn is probably dead at this point. He fired his int shots at her, and the int can kill anything. It doesn't matter what it is. It's alive, dead, machine, vegetable, you name it. You get shot with the int shot, you're dead. Now, you can be brought back, which she did for her companion. Took an int shot to the chest, fell dead, and she brought him back to life with this funky watch fob pulled out of a carpet bag. The lady took control of the int shot that was headed for her, sent it right back, and put it through into Gwendolyn's chest where she hit the ground. And then she proceeded to beat Stenstrom's ass. The way she talks, the sound of her voice, I took that from Spice Williams, who was a stunt woman and professional wrestler back in the 80s and 90s. And if Spice was wrestling somebody, she liked to trash talk, and she would just go, "Huh? You like that? Huh? Huh?" And I guess subconsciously, when I was writing this character, I guess that voice was in my head, so that's where we are. This lady, this in black, is a rough customer. We'll learn a little bit more about her in the coming pages. Part 2, Chapter 1, the Hrn. It's only 2¼ pages, so we will then proceed immediately to Part 2, Chapter 2, A Proposal in Bed. So right now, Gwen is laying on the floor, apparently dead, and Stenstrom is also laying on the ground as well. Well, this lady's just standing there like, now what am I gonna do with you? I have to issue another profanity alert because she's in this first chapter here, and she's cussing like a sailor again. She's gonna do that a lot in this book. So let's proceed post haste. Part 2, Chapter 1, the Hrn. Stenstrom lay there, partially dug into the ground, the woman in black standing over him, victorious. There was a metal-on-metal ring, and the woman toppled to the ground, where she landed in a dramatic arms and legs thud. Someone rushed past him. Gwendolyn. It was Gwendolyn! She had chopped through the metal vuncula tails with her fedula, bisecting all three. Painfully, Stenstrom stood, trying to collect his wits. Somehow, beyond all hope, Gwen was alive. A few feet away, Gwendolyn and the woman in black were locked in a clashing sword fight. Two long, saber-like blades had sprouted from her wrapped-up wrists, and she was skillfully matching Gwendolyn cut for cut. "Come on, honey, let me have a fucking look at you," she said, trying to fix Gwendolyn in her gaze and lock on with PK. "Gwen, don't look at her," Stenstrom cried, recalling what had happened to Kat. Gwen sidestepped, expertly staying out of her direct gaze. The woman quickly became frustrated, as she was used to having her way with her opponents with minimal effort. "Will you stand still, will you, bitch? Huh? Huh?" she roared. "Belle!" Gwen cried, desperate. "Belle, help me!" The woman was breaking through her defenses. He fought fast. So far, the woman in black had shown incredible power and foiled all of his attacks. Time to use her own weapons against her. He grabbed her bag sitting in the grass and dug through it. There were things inside that couldn't possibly fit. Weapons, trinkets, jewelry, and other such things. It seemed to be a collection of Los Capricos weapons. He even found a spool of wire in a velvet bag full of pewter eyeball charms, though they seemed to be asleep. He found the butt of a rifle and pulled it out. It was impossibly long and coal black. The deathlock. Stenstrom wasn't an aficionado of Los Capricos weapons like Captain Davidge, but the deathlock was a well-known instance. It was a rifle that, when fired, would zero in on the intended target no matter how far away they might be. All one had to do was have a victim in mind. And he had a victim in mind. He pointed the barrel skyward and fired. Boom! The woman had almost worn Gwen down. Stenstrom jumped in and with all his might punched her square in the jaw, snapping her head around. She grinned and cracked her knuckles. Now I'm gonna have to get... The bullet from the deathlock plummeted down from above and hit her between the shoulder blades, knocking her down. Stenstrom didn't see a bullet hole, just a scorch mark from where the shell had exploded. He shook his hands and produced 3 green holy stones. He rolled them into position for a clear shot and threw them. "Cheatin' Joe boy!" she screamed as the severed tail came up from the folds of her black gown and blocked them. They exploded in a confusion of webs, burying her deep within. She struggled. He threw a red holy stone and the tangle burst into flames. Stenstrom and Gwendolyn fell into each other's arms. "Dear creation, Gwendolyn, I thought you were dead." He kissed her face and held her. She squeezed back. "I thought I was dead for a moment," she said, returning his kisses. "Your coat saved me, Belle. She got me fair and square right in the chest with an inch shot. Gods!" They turned to the mass of flaming webbing which rustled as the woman struggled within. They heard her mumbling insults and threats over the flames. "Joe boy! Joe boy!" Stenstrom heard. The struggling stopped. Stenstrom and Gwendolyn let the fire and molten webbing burn down. The red holy stone burned hot, and there probably wouldn't be much left of the woman other than a charred mass. The fire soon lost strength, and the burning mass rapidly cooled. They dug through. "Gone!" Gwendolyn cried, rummaging through the ashes with her fedula. There was nothing, just a husk of burned webbing. Elsewhere, her handbag had vanished as well. They went to the other side of the ruins, looking for the bodies of Melazar and Kat. They found little, if anything. The explosion had consumed them. And with that, we conclude Part 2, Chapter 1, the HRN. Very short chapter, as I promised. So we see the HRN saved Gwendolyn from death when she took the end shot in the chest. Normally an end shot is invariably fatal, but in this case, I guess 2 arcane components canceled each other out, and Gwen was just knocked down and kind of senseless for a moment. She probably thought she was dead for a minute or two. She gets up and cuts through the woman in black's funcula tentacles with her fedula. Fedula is the Los Capricos weapon of Gwendolyn's house, the House Apprentice, and it's a very thin rapier-like sword that can slice through a lot more than you think it would be able to, being such a light little sword. It can cut through a lot, and she hacked right through her funcula tails, sending her to the ground. They had a brief sword fight. Stenstrom dug through her handbag, which is also a Los Capricos weapon. They're falling out of the woodwork, known as the Galvatar, which is a bag that other things come out of, and it's a bag that can hold impossibly large things in its interior. And in it, he pulled out the Deathlock, which is a kind of flintlocky looking rifle. All you have to do is point it in the air and shoot, and have a victim that you want this rifle to hit in your head as you're shooting it, and it'll find that person like a guided missile. No matter where on that planet you are from, you're not safe. If you're outside, you're in a lot of trouble, because it hits with the power of a large grenade. The only thing that's really going to save you is if you happen to be indoors, where the bullet can't get to you. If you're outdoors, it's going to find you and hit you square in the chest. And that's what happened. Knocked her down. The brief fisticuffs. They web her up with Stenstrom's holy stones and then light her mercilessly on fire. No jurisprudence here, just burn her ass up, but she disappeared and took her handbag with her, and that's where the chapter ends. So, as I promised, we move on to part 2, chapter 2, Proposal in Bed. So let's see where this story takes it. Stenstrom had never felt closer to Gwendolyn than he did after the ordeal at Caroline. His moments of vacillation with Morgan, Kat, and the others were gone. Seeing what he thought was Gwen's dead body lying in the green grass had shocked him. He'd learned a vital lesson. He'd underestimated his feelings for Gwen, had taken them for granted. Perhaps it was her matronly aspect that stirred his soul, that seeing her apparently dead was like experiencing his mother's death afresh. Perhaps it was the bravery she displayed afterwards. Either way, feeling her loss had been devastating. He clung to her, determined not to let this second chance be wasted. As promised, Aram and Alesta returned shortly afterward, eyes wide with delight. Alesta bounded out of the rip car and threw her arms around Gwendolyn. Aram was also all smiles. He noted Stenstrom's ruined clothing and patted him on the back. "I assume you met your enemy. And how?" "Consult your device, Aram. What does it say now?" Aram got the disc out of his pocket. "It says Shrine of Boraster." "What's that?" "Don't know. We'll look it up later." They returned to the ship and briefed Tara on what had happened. She informed Fleet, and they promised to send a follow-up team to the Caroline ruins. "I'd like Melazar's remains gathered and returned to her home as decency demands. Kat's as well." "The Black Hat? She was there?" "She was." Stenstrom returned to his quarters to change. Gwendolyn soon knocked on the door, waiting outside with her usual overnight bag. He opened the door and pulled her inside, her dead body lying in the grass. Such loss, such emptiness. He put her against the wall with a crash and knocked her overnight bag aside, spilling its contents onto the floor. Normally, Gwen was rather tight about showing her love, keeping it private and well hidden behind closed doors. She resisted at first, trying to remain impassive and demure before finally giving in and opening herself to the moment. She climbed up and put her legs around him, the door to his quarters still open. He dragged her into the bedroom and made love to her as never before. That night, as they lay in bed in the aftermath, he gently shook her. "Belle?" She responded, sleepy. "Gwen, wake up, please." "I'm tired, darling. We'll make love again in the morning, okay?" He felt the smooth fabric of her nightgown and the heat of her sturdy body. She always put on a nightgown after they'd finished making love. Why, he didn't know. It was a ritual she had. "Gwen." She jostled about, her hair all over the place. "What are you doing, Belle? I'm tired. I was almost killed today. So were you." "I thought I'd lost you," he whispered. "I'm fine. I've taken you for granted, Gwen. I have allowed the familiarity of our relationship to get the better of me. My thoughts have been straying recently." Gwen paused a moment. "You mean Morgan? I was hoping you might come to me and discuss the matter. I thought you were tiring of me. I know. I can be a stiff. I thought Morgan was fascinating and seductive. I'll admit that. But seeing you apparently dead, I realized what I had and what I almost lost. I put my coat on you on a whim. If you hadn't been wearing it, you'd be gone. And that thought is devastating for me." Gwen removed around and took him into her arms. Their bodies fit well together. "What are you trying to say, Belle?" "I'm saying that I love you, Gwen. You, not the stuffy person you force yourself to be during the day. You, that magnificent brave woman who fought at my side today. This afternoon, before you arrived in the conference room, Aram and Alesta told me the next person to enter the room would be my soulmate. And there you were, carrying your armload of things. How would Aram and Alesta know that? It's a long story. So I'm hoping if I extend you my hand, you might put the stuffy Lieutenant Gwendolyn away for good, and be at ease to be the true Gwendolyn whom I love." "Belle, are you asking me to marry you?" "I am. I wish you as the first Countess of Belmont, South Tyrol." Gwendolyn didn't say yes or no as they lay in bed, but her actions, kissing him about the face and neck and holding him tightly and weeping, spoke for her. "I have something I'd like to give you, Gwen. I've had it for a while." A present? For me? I don't have anything for you." Stenstrom slipped out of bed and went to his bureau. He opened a drawer and took out a small box. He returned to the bed, Gwen sitting up in her nightgown. Your beating heart and warm breath is gift enough. Take this as a symbol of my love. Gwen opened the box. Inside was an intricate, finely crafted lady's watch, resting on a cushioned backing, its silvery face gleaming under an exquisite crystal. Oh, Gwen exclaimed. She took it out of the box and held it up to the starlight. I know the Xenon custom for a man to purchase a special gift for his lady when he extends her his hand. I got this some time ago on the gold coast of Hoban at a fine jeweler's make. It tells time in standard Canaan bells and in Hoban hours. It has both an analog display and a telegraphic one, if you prefer a more modern treatment. I fancy watches with an analog face, and I love silver, she said, putting it on. It's not silver. It's platinum. I wanted to get you something I thought would last, something I thought you could use every day. Gwendolyn pulled off her nightgown and took Stenstrom into her. He felt the cold metal of the watch around her wrist as they made love again and again. A few hours later, deep into the night bell, there was a knock at the door. Already acting with more regal confidence, Gwendolyn got up to see who it was, shoeless and in her nightgown, something she'd never done previously. She had always hid when in his room. Stenstrom, mostly asleep, saw the light come on in the living area of his quarters and drift through the door. He heard the muffled sounds of Gwen talking to someone. "Belle, wake up. Come out here," she said from the other room. After easing out of bed, he pulled on a pair of bottoms, then went out into the living room. Aram and Alesta sat on the couch. Alesta was all smiles. "Congratulations, Belle. Gwen just told me." She got up and gave Stenstrom a gigantic hug. Gwendolyn went into the kitchenette. "I'd always envisioned my wedding announcement to take place on some grand Xenon ballroom, but being here in close quarters with the people I love most, I'd not have it any other way. Only person we're missing is Tara, but there's no possibility of getting her out of her rack at this hour. We'll bring her up to date first thing in the morning. Anyone for coffee? I'm gonna make a celebratory pot." "Me," Aram said. "Me too," Alesta said. "Belle, do you mind?" she said, pointing at her traveling boots. No, be comfortable." She sighed and undid the buttons and then set her boots aside. It suddenly hit him that he was wearing nothing but a pair of bottoms. "I need to get changed." The hour is late and we're all friends here, Belle," Aram said. Everyone is all smiles as they waited for Gwendolyn to finish up with the coffee. "You've made Gwen very happy, Belle, and you'll see the change in her for the better now that you're formal." "You will?" Alesta said, beaming. "The watch looks beautiful on her." Gwendolyn joined them with the coffee service. "So," Stenstrom said, "I'm assuming this early morning visit has to do with the events at the ruins of Caroline today." "It does, Belle," Aram said, taking a drink. "Great coffee, Gwen. It's nothing like yours." Aram laughed and finished his cup. Gwen seated herself next to Stenstrom. "So we're all friends here. And as I am now the Countess-in-Waiting to the House of Belmont, South Tyrol, I feel that I should be privy to all. Is there anything I should know here?" "No," Alesta stammered, she being a poor liar. "What makes you say that?" Gwen grabbed a sheet of paper and a marker. She settled next to Stenstrom and began drawing. "While I was flat on my back in Caroline, wondering how and why I was still alive, I had a vision. I saw this." She showed them what she had drawn. "This. What is this? I'm fairly well certain you know what it is." Stenstrom looked at the paper and told Gwendolyn everything. He told her about anatameters and halls of mirrors and differing planes of reality. Gwendolyn, sitting there in her nightgown, took it all in with remarkable calm. He wasn't certain how long he talked, but he noticed the same distinctive spit of land and Esther passed by the window several times, so it had to have taken at least a bell or two. "So if I understand correctly, you're saying that these 8 portions represent different versions of Belle, and these names here signify the woman he is with?" "That's right, Gwen," Alesta said. "His soulmate." Gwendolyn looked a bit perturbed. She pushed the paper away. "I don't understand. Why isn't my name there all 8 times? Alesta shrugged. "Different places, different choices. Look, you're listed 4 times, more than anybody else. You might have had more if you hadn't been angry with Belle today." Gwen didn't accept that as an answer. "I should be Belle's soulmate in all places. He would certainly be mine. Look at these names. Melazar of Caroline, for creation's sake. Cat. I don't know who Cat is. Tara? Tara's our friend and nothing more. Not as we see here, Alesta said. Gwendolyn stared at the drawing and stewed a bit. Alesta finished her cup and snuggled into Aram's shoulder. Things are now well in motion. Today was a turning point of sorts, for a number of reasons. You confirmed Gwen as your soulmate in this realm of existence. You saw what tends to happen to the Ossorans, to Madame Melazar, and to the Black Hat. The women who could have been your soulmate. They tend to die. I don't know why, but that seems to be the case. He considered the prospect of not having Gwen and felt her loss again. He glanced at her. There she was, drinking her coffee, sitting on the couch, wearing her watch, bathed in the greenish glow of Cana coming through the windows. He quickly tried to dismiss the thought of her dying. But what about Tara? I'm very concerned. I don't want her to die. I don't know. If she can avoid the Hall of Mirrors, I think she'll be fine. Might be wise to keep a distance from her until this is concluded. I shall pray to the star that nothing happens to her. Tara is our friend too. Aram jumped in. Let's move on, please. Tara's not gonna die. We haven't seen her dead yet. We also learned today who your enemy is, Belle. Aram said. The gentleman who got killed in Caroline is, or was, Rodrigo of Bergen. I believe Madame Caroline mentioned him and the nihilist of punts he serves. Who are they? Stenstrom asked. Aram continued. A non-league sect whose stated purpose is to bring about the end of the universe. And before you ask, we have no idea why anyone or any group affiliation would want to do such a thing. From what we've been told, there is a mythical place called Punt, and there they worship an entity whom we've become quite familiar with as of late. Stenstrom knew. The shadow tech goddess, is that right? Correct. The Punt seek her out, hoping to entice her to destroy the universe. They seek her by way of the Hall of Mirrors and the Anatameter. And now that they've locked onto yours, we can expect to be seeing them again. Now, the woman in black, her name is Messalina, and she was his paid bodyguard. She's your enemy in this realm, Belle, as her name now appears on the disc, Aram said. This Messalina person was incredibly powerful. She stopped an inch-shot cold and had mastery over TK only sisters display, Stenstrom said. She is a sister, Belle, or more precisely, she was a sister. She's a fallen sister, a member of the Order of Lacerta, Alestra added. The what? She continued. The sisters aren't perfect. Sometimes they tire of the stern life they're expected to live. It's not something the sisters like to discuss much, but sometimes they fall and become one of the Order of Lacerta. They are formidable foes. They have all of the sisters' abilities and none of their inhibitions. They are hedonists, freely indulging in what was once forbidden to them. Good food, nice clothing, sex. Oh, they're ravenous for sex. And drugs, too. She talked a lot and had a foul mouth, Gwen added. Aram agreed. Lacertas like to talk as well. They relearn how to use their mouths. Enjoy swearing, so we're told. Well, that much is confirmed. So now what? Stenstrom asked. We've followed the steps, and I'm eager to rid myself of this Anatameter device once and for all. Aram pulled the disc from his coat. The word formed on the disc as the battle concluded. Shrine of Baraster is the key to moving forward. Gwen's ears picked up. Baraster, she repeated. Baraster is one of the elders. Yes, that's right, Aram said. Gwen puzzled over it. I know of no such shrine. Baraster was virtually unknown. There are no stories that I recall where he was installed as a featured eminence. No associated lore. His name was simply listed along with the rest. Aram finished his coffee while Alesta spoke. We were told that the elders took turns holding sway over us prior to their death during the EX time epoch. Each time we moved from one planet to the other, a different group of elders came to the front, while the previous fell into obscurity. Here on Cana, Nylax, Val, Fockwell, Terfal, Ald, and Selax were the predominant elders. However, in different time epochs, on a previous home world, Baraster held supreme power. And from what we've discovered, he was rather more heavy-handed and apt to indulge in god worship than Nylax ever was. It was a long time ago, and clearly it's been forgotten. So where is this shrine located? Gwendolyn asked. Aram shook his head. Unknown. That was over 100,000 years ago, and the location of his shrine is lost to the ages. However, that is where your Anatameter currently is located. You must go there and turn the dial. Gwendolyn turned on the HoloNet. Brilliant images spun about the room as she accessed data. Seems our search might be extensive. I'm not finding any data pertaining to the location of the Shrine of Boraster. It's mentioned here in the database, and that various scholars agree that such a place once existed in the ancient past, but there's nothing more. She read the data and flushed. Oh, well, look who it is. I see a certain scholar, EVOR Hannah Ben Sherlamp, Professor Emeritus, University of D, has written several papers on the subject. Remember her? The woman with the arrogant statue out at Clovis? She seems to think the shrine is located on Ing, our ancient homeworld. Perhaps she has information that we need, Stenstrom said. Oh, please. Ing, just like Camera, Emira, Lemuria, and Earth, all former home worlds, is lost to the ages. Nobody, including this corseted tea drinker from the University of D, knows where Ing is, and therefore nobody knows where the shrine is as well, Gwen said. She turned to Aram and Alesta. Seems like a dead end. Alesta smiled. We are told our contact might soon have some promising information regarding the location of Ing. We should know more tomorrow. And how so? Gwen asked, her curiosity rising. Even as we speak, an alternate version of Bell is questing for the location of Ing. We should have it soon. Well, then I hope I find success, Stenstrom said. In the meantime, we'll try to contact this Professor Sherlamp in the morning and possibly learn more. If the shrine is located on Ing, we'll need to have some idea of where on Ing it is. An entire planet is a lot of territory to cover. I've been told professors can be a bit of a handful. Gwen powered down the terminal. Can they? I'm certain we can handle one dyspeptic bookworm from Calvert. We'll feed her some information and take what we need. If she starts asking too many questions, we'll turn to stone on her and let her twist. Aram and Alesta stood up. We're going to be in and out a lot over the next few days, as we've other places to visit as well. When you see us next, we should know where Ing is located. Good night, and once again, congratulations. And with that, we conclude Part 2, Chapter 2, Proposal in Bed. So, seeing Gwen apparently die at the ruins of Caroline had a big effect on Paymaster Stenstrom. Felt Gwen's loss, and so all of his previous notions where he entertained thoughts of having something with Morgan and with Kat were shoved by the wayside. Gwen won. He asked her to marry him to extend his hand and gave her a platinum watch. That watch shows up in a lot of different books. In the Stenabel, that watch is important, and all these various universes that this Shadow Tech Goddess series deals with. So we see this watch again in other books, in other places. We also discovered that this creepy-assed woman in black is, in fact, a fallen sister, and they're known as the Order of Lacerta. That's I guess, if you fall out of one club, you automatically join another. So Lacertas are all fallen sisters that the sisterhood actually hunts for. They try to hunt these people down and get rid of them one way or the other. Lacerta, according to Vith lore, was one of the daughters of the old Vith hero Hama of Telmus Falls, and she, like her brothers and sisters, were devoured by Hama. She was always kind of a dark presence in Vith mythology. Her sister Subra of the Mark, who was like the very first Shadow Tech female, was much more popular, and Lacerta, or Lacerta the Midnight as she's known, sort of had a dark influence. So a lot of darkness on Cana came from Lacerta one way or the other. So it's an apt name for these dark fallen sisters who will do bad things to you should you cross their paths. In the meantime, we will proceed with the story next week, Part 2, Chapter 3, Hannah Ben Sherlamp, and I'm ecstatic to announce that reprising her role from the cat readings is my good friend from across the pond, author Cass Peace, who will be reading Hannah Ben Sherlamp's lines. It's such a bold eminence, my voice can't do her justice. So we have Cass next week to read them for us, and she does an amazing job, and she's a brilliant writer as well. We'll talk about Cass Peace more next week. In the meantime, this is Ren Presents. I'm your host, Ren. Peace out.